Commander Hansol Kim stood on the bridge of the New Sol and watched the stars through the main window. His ship moved slowly through space toward Kepler 7 station. This was the most important day in human history. Today they would meet aliens for the first time. Hansol felt nervous but excited. He had trained his whole life for this moment. Dr. Yuna Park walked up beside him. She carried a thick folder full of papers about alien languages and cultures. Yuna had spent 5 years learning everything she could about the Vorthak Empire. She hoped today would bring peace between humans and aliens. Her team had prepared gifts and trade offers. They wanted to show the aliens that humans were friendly. The New Sol was not a big ship. It had basic weapons, but it was built for exploration and diplomacy. 2 smaller ships flew beside it. The Daegu and the Gwangju carried supplies and extra crew. Hansol looked at his small fleet and felt proud. These 3 ships represented all of humanity. Lieutenant Jang Subin worked at the communications desk. She had been trying to contact Kepler 7 station for hours. Finally, she turned to Hansol with a smile. The station was answering their calls. They were cleared to dock in 2 hours. Hansol nodded and gave orders to prepare for arrival. Kepler 7 was a neutral trading station built by an old alien race called the Builders. Many different species came here to trade and meet. The station was huge and shaped like a wheel. It spun slowly in space to create artificial gravity. Hansol had seen pictures, but seeing it in person was amazing. As they got closer to the station, Hansol noticed something strange. There were many large ships near Kepler 7. These ships looked nothing like human vessels. They were dark and covered in sharp angles. Weapons stuck out from every surface. These had to be Vorthak ships. Dr. Park counted the alien ships through the window. She stopped counting at 50. There were too many to count. Her face went pale. This was not what they expected. The Vorthak had sent a massive war fleet to meet 3 small human ships. Something was very wrong. The communications officer received a message from the station. The Vorthak wanted to meet immediately. They were waiting in docking bay 12. Hansol looked at his crew. Everyone seemed scared, but they had come too far to turn back now. This was first contact and they had to see it through. The docking went smoothly. Hansol and Dr. Park put on their best uniforms. They took a small team with them to the meeting room. The station corridors were crowded with aliens from many different species. Most of them moved quickly and avoided looking at the humans. Word had spread that something big was happening. The meeting room was large and round. In the center stood the largest alien Hansol had ever imagined. It was nearly 3 meters tall and covered in thick armor. Its face looked like a cross between a lizard and a shark. Sharp teeth filled its mouth. This was War Prime Gextar of the Vorthak Empire. Gextar spoke in perfect English. His voice was deep and threatening. He had learned human languages to make this meeting easier. Behind him stood 6 other Vorthak warriors. All of them looked ready for battle. Their weapons were visible, and their armor was polished. Dr. Park stepped forward with her prepared speech. She talked about friendship between species. She offered trade agreements and cultural exchanges. She showed the gifts her team had brought from Earth. Books about human history and art, samples of human music and food, everything that made humanity special. Gextar listened without moving. When Dr. Park finished speaking, he laughed. The sound was cold and harsh. He said the gifts were worthless. Humans were clearly a weak species. Their ships were small and their weapons were primitive. The Vorthak Empire had no interest in friendship with weaklings. Instead, Gextar made demands. Earth would become part of the Vorthak Empire immediately. Humans would serve as workers and slaves. Their ships and weapons would belong to the Vorthak. Any resistance would result in the complete destruction of Earth and all humans everywhere. Commander Hansol felt anger rising in his chest. He spoke, carefully and politely. He said humans needed time to consider this offer. They would need to discuss it with their government on Earth. Perhaps they could find a solution that worked for everyone. Gextar's eyes turned bright red. He said there was nothing to discuss. Humans had shown their weakness by coming with only 3 ships. They had proven they were not warriors. The Vorthak only respected strength and humans had none. To prove his point, Gextar gave an order to his fleet. Through the station windows, everyone could see one of the human escort ships. The Daegu was floating peacefully near the docking bay. Suddenly, green energy beams struck the ship from multiple directions. The Daegu exploded in a ball of fire and metal. 30 human crew members died instantly. The meeting room went silent. Dr. Park started crying. Hansol clenched his fists but said nothing. They were surrounded by enemies and had no way to fight back. Any aggressive action would result in more deaths. Gextar smiled, showing all his sharp teeth. He said this was just a small demonstration. The Vorthak fleet had 200 ships waiting in nearby space. Each ship could destroy entire cities. If humans wanted to avoid total extinction, they would surrender immediately. But Gextar was not completely unreasonable. He would give humans 30 days to make their decision. They could return to Earth and prepare for surrender. In 30 days, the Vorthak would arrive at Earth. If humans surrendered peacefully, they would be allowed to live as slaves. If they resisted, every human in the galaxy would die. Commander Hansol knew they had no choice. He accepted the 30-day deadline. He promised to deliver the message to Earth's government. Gextar warned him not to try any tricks. The Vorthak were watching. Any attempt to prepare for war would be seen as resistance. The surviving humans returned to their ships quickly. The New Seoul and the Gwangju left Kepler-7 as fast as possible. During the long journey home, nobody spoke much. They had gone to make friends and instead had found humanity's greatest enemy. Dr. Park worked on her report during the trip. She tried to find hope in the situation, but there was very little. The Vorthak were stronger than humans in every way. Their technology was hundreds of years ahead of Earth's best science. Their ships were faster, and their weapons were more powerful. Worst of all, they seemed to enjoy violence and conquest. Hansol stared out at the stars and thought about Earth. His wife and children lived there. Everyone he had ever known or loved was on that small blue planet. In 30 days, all of them might be dead or enslaved. The weight of this knowledge felt heavier than the ship itself. When they finally reached Earth, the news spread quickly. Every government and military leader wanted to hear their report. The media called it the darkest day in human history. Some people panicked and tried to flee to distant colonies. Others demanded that Earth fight back no matter the cost. Commander Hansol gave his report to the United Earth Council. He described everything he had seen and heard. The massive Vorthak fleet, the casual destruction of the Daegu, the impossible deadline and terrible choice facing humanity. When he finished speaking, the council room was completely silent. Earth had 30 days to decide its fate. President Lee Dae-ho sat in the emergency meeting room deep under Seoul. Around the table sat the most important people on Earth. Military leaders from every nation were there. Scientists and engineers had flown in from around the world. Everyone looked worried and scared. The report from Commander Hansol was clear. Humanity faced complete destruction in 29 days. The Vorthak Empire had never been defeated. They had conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy. Now they wanted Earth, and they would take it by force. Admiral Choi Min-ho stood up to give his military assessment. His face was grim as he spoke. Earth's entire space navy consisted of 45 ships. Most were exploration vessels with basic weapons added later. Against the Vorthak's 200 warships, they would last maybe 10 minutes in direct combat. The admiral showed pictures of Vorthak technology on the big screen. Their ships had energy shields that could stop any human weapon. Their plasma cannons could destroy Earth's largest battleship with a single shot. Their faster-than-light drives were 3 times faster than anything humans had built. General Park Taemin spoke next about ground defenses. Earth's armies were large but poorly equipped for fighting aliens. Human weapons were designed to fight other humans. Nobody knew if bullets or missiles would even hurt Vorthak soldiers. The aliens wore advanced armor and carried energy weapons that could cut through steel. As each expert spoke, the situation looked more hopeless. Earth had no secret weapons, no hidden fleets, no advanced technology that could match the aliens. Humanity was about to face extinction, and there seemed to be no way to stop it. Then Dr. Kim Hyejin asked to speak. She was young for such an important meeting, but everyone knew she was brilliant. She had studied military history and strategy at the best universities. More importantly, she had spent the last week studying every piece of information about the Vorthak Empire. Dr. Kim walked to the front of the room and put new pictures on the screen. These showed the worlds conquered by the Vorthak over the past century. Each conquest followed the same pattern. The aliens would arrive with overwhelming force. The local species would try to fight using conventional military tactics. Within weeks or months, the resistance would collapse and the world would surrender. But Dr. Kim had noticed something important. Every species the Vorthak had conquered was technologically inferior, but they all fought the same way. They tried to match Vorthak's strength with their own strength. They built bigger ships and more powerful weapons. They fought the kind of war the Vorthak wanted to fight. None of the conquered species had tried different tactics. None had used guerrilla warfare or asymmetric strategies. They all assumed that military strength meant having the biggest guns and the most ships. This was exactly what the Vorthak expected and prepared for. Dr. Kim proposed something completely different. Instead of trying to match Vorthak, firepower humans should avoid direct confrontation entirely. They should use speed and stealth and surprise. They should fight dirty and break every rule of civilized warfare. Most importantly, they should never fight the kind of battle the aliens expected. The room erupted in arguments. Many military leaders said this was cowardice. Real soldiers fought face to face with honor and courage. Running and hiding was not the human way. Several admirals walked out of the meeting in disgust, but President Lee listened carefully to Dr. Kim's ideas. He asked her to explain exactly how this different kind of warfare would work. Dr. Kim had prepared for this question. She had detailed plans that used humanity's greatest strengths against Vorthak weaknesses. The plan started with misdirection. The Vorthak expected humans to mass their ships for a big battle near Earth. Instead, the human fleet would scatter and hide throughout the solar system. When the aliens arrived, they would find no enemies to fight. This would confuse them and make them careless. Meanwhile, human engineers would prepare surprises throughout Earth's solar system. Mines hidden in asteroid fields. Weapons disguised as communication satellites. Traps that would activate when Vorthak ships came too close. The aliens would fly into a maze of hidden dangers. Engineer Oh Jin-woo was called to the meeting to discuss these preparations. He was famous for building things that nobody thought possible. Oh listened to Dr. Kim's ideas and nodded slowly. He said it could work, but they would need every factory on Earth working at maximum speed. The plan also required evacuating most of Earth's population. Civilian ships would carry people to hidden colonies in distant star systems. The Vorthak would arrive to find a mostly empty planet. This would frustrate them and force them to change their conquest strategy. Captain Jang Soo-bin was asked about using civilian ships as weapons. She had experience converting cargo vessels for military use. She said it was dangerous, but possible. Civilian ships could carry more explosives than military vessels. They could also disguise themselves as harmless cargo until the moment of attack. Dr. Kim's most controversial idea involved fighting on Earth itself. If the aliens landed ground troops, humans would not meet them in open battle. Instead, they would use guerrilla tactics in cities and forests. Every building would become a fortress. Every street would be a trap. The aliens would face endless, small attacks instead of one big battle. Colonel Nam Ji-hoon was the Army's expert on unconventional warfare. He had fought in conflicts around the world where small forces defeated much larger enemies. He said Dr. Kim's plan could work, but it would require training millions of civilians to fight. The debate continued for hours. Some people said the plan was too risky. Others said it was humanity's only hope. President Lee called for a vote. The decision was close, but Dr. Kim's strategy won by 3 votes. The next few days were chaos across Earth. Every factory stopped making civilian goods and started producing weapons. Car companies built missiles. Electronics manufacturers made guidance systems. Even toy factories were converted to produce military equipment. Lieutenant Kwon So-young was put in charge of training civilian pilots. Most of Earth's cargo ship, crews had never seen combat. They needed to learn how to fly like fighters and attack like warriors. Quan worked 18 hours a day teaching them survival techniques and attack strategies. The evacuation began immediately. Thousands of ships left Earth every day carrying families to safety. Parents said goodbye to their children not knowing if they would ever meet again. Many people chose to stay and fight even though they had no military training. Dr. Lee Chan-woo led the scientific effort to understand Vorthak technology. The destroyed pieces of the Daegu had been recovered from space. His team studied every fragment trying to learn about alien weapons and shields. What they discovered gave humanity its first real hope. Vorthak technology was advanced, but it was not perfect. Their energy shields had specific frequencies. Their plasma weapons had limited range. Most importantly, their ships were designed to fight other advanced civilizations. They were not prepared for the crude but effective weapons humans could build. Quickly. Meanwhile, Admiral Yang Hyun-woo prepared the space fleet for its new mission. Instead of fighting one big battle, his ships would spread across the solar system. They would attack supply lines and communication systems. They would avoid direct confrontation and strike only when they had overwhelming advantage. The ground. Forces trained for urban warfare under Sergeant Shin Min-ji. She had experience fighting in destroyed cities where every room could hide enemies. She taught soldiers how to use alien weapons captured from the enemy. More importantly, she showed them how to turn human cities into deadly mazes. As the deadline approached, everyone knew the plan was risky. Many things could go wrong. The aliens might be smarter than expected. Human weapons might be completely useless. The evacuation might fail and millions could die. But for the first time since the meeting at Kepler 7, humans had hope. They were not going to surrender without a fight. They were not going to let their species become slaves. When the Vorthak arrived expecting easy conquest, they would find something completely different. They would find humanity at war. President Lee made a final broadcast to Earth and the colonies. He told everyone that the next few weeks would be the most important in human history. Some people would die. Many would suffer, but humanity would survive, and the aliens would learn that humans were not as weak as they appeared. The countdown had begun. In 3 days, the Vorthak fleet would arrive. Earth was as ready as it could be. Hidden weapons waited throughout the solar system. Civilian ships had been converted into flying bombs. Millions of people had learned to fight like soldiers. Most importantly, humanity had chosen to fight on its own terms. The aliens wanted a traditional war with big battles and honorable combat. Instead, they would get something they had never faced before. They would get human warfare and all the terrible creativity that came with it. The Vorthak had desired war. Now humanity would give them exactly what they asked for. War Prime Gextar stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the small blue planet ahead. Earth looked peaceful and defenseless from space. No massive fleets waited to challenge him. No weapon platforms guarded the approaches. After 30 days, the humans had apparently accepted their fate and chosen surrender over destruction. The Vorthak invasion fleet had arrived exactly on schedule. 200 warships filled space around Earth like hungry predators. Each ship carried enough firepower to level entire cities. Gextar felt satisfied that another weak species was about to join the Empire as slaves. His communications officer reported strange readings from human space. There were thousands of objects floating throughout the solar system, but most appeared to be debris or abandoned satellites. The humans had apparently tried to evacuate their population, leaving behind junk and wreckage. This was typical behavior from species that knew they could not win. Gextar gave orders for the fleet to advance toward Earth. They would establish orbital control first, then demand the formal surrender of human leadership. If anyone still had thoughts of resistance, they would quickly learn the price of defying the Vorthak Empire. Captain Jang Subin watched the alien fleet through her ship's sensors. The converted cargo vessel Busan Merchant looked exactly like what it was supposed to be. A harmless civilian ship carrying refugees away from the doomed planet. Her crew of 12 included some of Earth's best engineers and pilots, but to alien eyes they appeared to be scared civilians. The Busan Merchant was not alone. 50 other converted ships drifted through space pretending to flee from the aliens. Each ship was packed with explosives and guided by volunteers who knew they would not survive the next hour. This was the first phase of humanity's desperate plan engineer. Oh Jin-woo had spent 3 weeks turning the solar system into the largest minefield in galactic history. Millions of small explosives hid among the asteroids and space debris. Most were crude devices built from mining equipment, but they would be effective against unshielded alien ships. The mines were designed to look like natural objects or space junk. Old satellites had been packed with explosives and set to detonate when alien ships came too close. Asteroid fragments contained shaped charges that would fire metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Even the floating wreckage from destroyed human ships had been rigged to explode. Lieutenant Kwon So-young piloted her fighter from inside a hollow asteroid. Around her waited 200 of Earth's best pilots in ships designed specifically for this battle. They were fast and small, and almost impossible to detect. Their weapons were simple, but deadly at close range. The human strategy was the opposite of everything the Vorthak expected. Instead of meeting the alien fleet in open battle, the humans would attack from hiding. Instead of fighting with honor, they would use tricks and traps. Instead of one big confrontation, they would fight dozens of small battles. As the Vorthak fleet moved closer to Earth, the first mines began to explode. The aliens had spread their ships across a wide area to prevent surprise attacks, but this made them more vulnerable to hidden explosives. Green energy beams from Vorthak weapons destroyed some mines, but many more remained hidden. The explosions started small and seemed random. A cargo ship would suddenly erupt in flames. A communication satellite would detonate as alien ships passed nearby. At first, Gextar assumed these were accidents or malfunctioning human equipment. Then the attacks became more coordinated. Captain Jang Soo-bian waited until 3 Vorthak cruisers came close enough to her position. The aliens were scanning her ship, but they saw only frightened refugees trying to escape. She spoke calmly to her crew as they prepared for their final mission. When the alien ships were exactly where she wanted them, she triggered the massive explosive charge hidden in her cargo hold. The Busan merchant vanished in a ball of nuclear fire that destroyed 2 alien ships and severely damaged the third. Across the solar system, 49 other converted ships carried out similar attacks. The Vorthak lost 60 vessels in the first 10 minutes of battle. Gextar roared orders at his crew. This was not supposed to happen. Intelligence reports said humans were a peaceful species with primitive weapons. They were not supposed to be capable of such coordinated attacks. He commanded his ships to destroy everything that moved, whether it looked threatening or not. This was exactly what the humans wanted. As Vorthak ships fired wildly at suspected mines, they revealed their positions to hidden observers. Lieutenant Kwon So-young led her fighter squadron out of the asteroid field. In a perfectly coordinated attack, 200 small ships struck the alien fleet like an angry swarm of insects. The human fighters were too small and fast for the alien weapon systems. Vorthak plasma cannons were designed to destroy large warships, not tiny attack craft. The key fighters darted between the alien ships, firing missiles and energy beams at critical systems. They targeted engines and weapon mounts and communication arrays. Each fighter carried enough firepower to damage but not destroy an alien ship. The strategy was to cripple as many enemies as possible, rather than destroying a few completely. Damaged ships would slow down the entire alien fleet and create confusion in their ranks. Sergeant Shin Min-ji commanded a squad of human soldiers aboard a captured Vorthak transport. Her team had been waiting inside the ship for 2 weeks disguised as maintenance workers. When the alien fleet arrived, they activated their hidden weapons and began sabotaging alien systems from within. The transport was carrying supplies and ammunition to other Vorthak ships. Shin's team planted explosives throughout the cargo holds, then used the ship's own weapons to attack nearby alien vessels. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, the transport had destroyed 3 ships and damaged several others. Similar attacks were happening throughout the alien fleet. Human infiltrators had hidden aboard supply ships and cargo vessels weeks before the invasion began. Now they struck from within the Vorthak formation, causing chaos and confusion. The aliens had never faced an enemy that would sacrifice their own lives so readily. Admiral Yang Hyun-woo watched the battle from his command ship hidden behind Jupiter's largest moon. His fleet of 30 vessels waited for the perfect moment to strike. The admiral had served in Earth's Navy for 20 years but had never commanded a battle like this. When the Vorthak fleet was fully engaged, fighting human fighters and dealing with internal sabotage, Yang gave the order to attack. His ships emerged from hiding and struck at the alien rear guard. The surprised Vorthak vessels found themselves caught between human attacks from multiple directions. The battle was nothing like traditional space combat. Instead of two fleets facing each other in formation, it was chaos with attacks coming from everywhere at once. Human ships would appear suddenly, fire everything they had, then vanish before the aliens could respond effectively. Dr. Lee Chan-woo had been right about Vorthak technology. Their weapons and shields were designed for fighting other advanced civilizations in organized battles. They were not prepared for the crude but effective tactics humans were using. The aliens kept trying to form battle lines while humans attacked from unexpected angles. War Prime Gextar realized his fleet was in serious trouble. He had already lost over 80 ships to human attacks, and the battle had barely begun. This was supposed to be a simple conquest, but it was turning into a disaster. The humans were fighting like nothing the Vorthak had ever encountered. He gave orders for his remaining ships to retreat to a safer distance and regroup, but the humans did not let them withdraw peacefully. Hidden weapons continued to explode throughout the solar system. More human ships emerged from hiding to attack the retreating aliens. Fighter squadrons pursued damaged Vorthak vessels and finished them off. The first phase of the battle ended after 6 hours of continuous fighting. The Vorthak fleet had lost nearly half its ships, while human losses were much smaller. More importantly, the aliens were demoralized and confused, while human forces remained hidden and ready for the next attack. Gextar sent urgent messages to Vorthak High Command requesting reinforcements. He reported that humans were far more dangerous than intelligence estimates suggested. They used tactics that no civilized species would consider honorable. They fought like wild animals with no regard for the accepted rules of warfare, but reinforcements would take weeks to arrive, and the battle for Earth was far from over. The surviving Vorthak ships regrouped and prepared for a direct assault on the planet itself. If they could not win easily in space, they would land ground troops and conquer Earth the hard way. Colonel Nam Ji-hoon received word that alien landing craft were approaching Earth's surface. His ground forces had been waiting for weeks to face the Vorthak army. Unlike the space battle, this would be fought on human territory using human rules. The aliens were about to learn that conquering Earth would be far more difficult than conquering other worlds. The humans had drawn first blood in space, but the real war was just beginning. Earth cities had been turned into fortresses. Every street was a trap, and every building was a weapon. The Vorthak might have superior technology, but they were about to fight on humanity's home ground. The aliens had wanted war, and now they were getting more than they bargained for. Colonel Nam Ji-hoon crouched behind the ruins of what used to be Seoul's City Hall. Through his binoculars, he watched Vorthak landing craft descend from the sky like metal rain. Each ship carried 50 alien soldiers in heavy armor. The first wave would bring 5,000 enemies to his section of the city. The colonel had fought in wars around the world, but nothing had prepared him for this. Fighting aliens with advanced technology while defending his own home was something no human military manual could teach, but Nam was not worried. He and his soldiers had spent weeks turning Seoul into a death trap. Every building in the city had been prepared for battle. Windows were blocked with steel plates that had small holes for weapons. Rooftops held hidden missile launchers controlled by remote signals. The subway tunnels had been turned into a network of hidden passages that let human soldiers move unseen throughout the city. Sergeant Shin Min-ji led her squad through the underground tunnels toward the alien landing zone. Her team carried a mixture of human and captured alien weapons. They had studied Vorthak armor and knew exactly where to aim for maximum damage. More importantly, they knew the city better than any invader ever could. The first alien troops to leave their landing craft walked into what looked like an abandoned city. Most buildings appeared empty, and there were no human soldiers in sight. The Vorthak commander was suspicious, but his orders were clear. Secure the city and capture any humans for questioning about their military capabilities. What the aliens did not know was that 3,000 human fighters were watching them from hidden positions. Nam had divided his forces into small teams that could move independently throughout the city. Instead of fighting one big battle, they would fight hundreds of small ones. The trap was sprung when the aliens reached the main intersection near city center. Explosives hidden under the street detonated simultaneously, destroying the lead vehicles and blocking the roads. At the same moment, human soldiers opened fire from dozens of buildings surrounding the intersection. The alien soldiers were caught, completely by surprise. Their armor protected them from small arms fire, but the humans were using armor-piercing rounds and captured alien weapons. More importantly, the humans were firing from elevated positions that gave them clear shots at weak points in Vorthak protective gear. Sergeant Shin's squad emerged from a subway entrance directly behind the alien formation. They fired rocket-propelled grenades at the landing craft to prevent more troops from reinforcing the trapped soldiers. The aliens tried to turn and face this new threat, but found themselves under attack from multiple directions. This was exactly the kind of warfare the Vorthak had never encountered. They were used to fighting organized armies in open terrain. Their tactics involved overwhelming firepower and advanced technology, defeating primitive enemies quickly. But in Seoul, they faced an enemy that refused to fight fair. The aliens called for air support, but their aircraft faced the same problems as their ground troops. Human surface-to-air missiles were hidden throughout the city and activated by remote control. Alien pilots found themselves flying through a maze of explosions and energy beams fired from unexpected locations. Commander Vexkol led the Vorthak ground assault, but he was quickly losing control of the situation. His soldiers were trained to advance in formation and overwhelm resistance with superior firepower, but every time they tried to form up, human attacks would scatter them and force them to take cover. The humans seemed to appear from nowhere, strike hard, then vanish before the aliens could respond effectively. They used building tunnels and sewer systems to move around the city unseen. When alien soldiers entered a building to clear it, they would find it empty, but then come under attack from the building next door. Dr. Kim Hee-jin had studied urban warfare extensively when planning humanity's defense. She knew that cities favored defenders who knew the terrain. Every street corner could hide an ambush. Every building could be a fortress. The aliens might have better weapons, but humans had better knowledge of the battlefield. The battle for Seoul continued for 3 days without a clear winner. The Vorthak controlled some areas during daylight, but lost them again at night when human soldiers emerged from hiding. The aliens found that holding territory required keeping soldiers in defensive positions, which made them vulnerable to surprise attacks. Meanwhile, similar battles were being fought in cities around the world. The Vorthak had expected to conquer Earth in a few days, but instead found themselves trapped in dozens of urban combat zones. Each city was a separate war that required different tactics and constant reinforcement. Private Park Yoo-jin defended a hospital in the center of Seoul that had been converted into a fortress. The building's thick walls provided excellent protection, and its height gave defenders clear views of approaching enemies. Park had been a nurse before the war, but now she carried an alien plasma rifle taken from a dead soldier. The hospital was strategically important because it controlled a major intersection that the aliens needed to move supplies and reinforcements. Every day they attacked the building, and every day the human defenders drove them back. The aliens could have destroyed the hospital with heavy weapons, but they needed the intersection intact. Colonel Nam realized that the key to victory was not defeating the aliens in direct combat, but making conquest too expensive to continue. Each day of fighting cost the Vorthak soldiers an equipment they could not easily replace. Meanwhile, human losses were being replaced by civilians who had learned to fight during the evacuation. The turning point came when Sergeant Shin's squad captured an alien communication center. The building contained equipment that the Vorthak used to coordinate attacks throughout the city. Shin's team managed to hack into the alien network and began sending false orders to enemy units. Soon, Vorthak forces were attacking empty buildings while human soldiers struck at undefended positions. Alien supply convoys were sent to the wrong locations where human ambush teams were waiting. The coordination that made Vorthak armies effective began to break down under the pressure of constant deception. Engineer Oh Jin Woo had prepared special surprises for alien forces that ventured into the subway tunnels. The underground passages were rigged with explosives that could bring down entire city blocks. When a large Vorthak force entered the tunnels to hunt for human fighters, Oh triggered charges that collapsed the tunnels and trapped hundreds of aliens underground. The psychological effect on alien morale was devastating. Vorthak soldiers were used to quick victories against inferior enemies. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a nightmare where death could come from any direction at any time. Many aliens began showing signs of combat stress that their commanders had never seen before. Captain Jang Subin had survived the space battle and now commanded human forces in the port district of Busan. Her soldiers used captured alien vehicles and weapons to conduct raids deep into enemy territory. They would strike quickly at supply depots and command posts, then retreat before reinforcements could arrive. The raids were particularly effective because humans could blend in with civilian refugees while aliens stood out clearly in any crowd. Jang's teams would approach targets disguised as displaced civilians, then reveal hidden weapons at the last moment. The aliens never knew which humans were dangerous until it was too late. Lieutenant Kwon So-young had been shot down during the space battle but survived the crash landing. She now led a group of civilian volunteers in guerrilla attacks against alien patrols. Her knowledge of alien technology helped her team capture weapons and vehicles that they used in increasingly bold operations. The war on Earth was becoming a contest of wills rather than firepower. The Vorthak had superior technology, but they were fighting an enemy that refused to accept defeat. Every human loss was replaced by 10 more volunteers willing to fight. Every alien victory was followed by renewed resistance in areas that were supposed to be secure. Commander Vexkol sent increasingly desperate reports to the fleet commanders in orbit. His ground forces controlled less than 30% of Earth's major cities despite having overwhelming technological advantages. The humans fought with a determination that Vorthak military doctrine could not explain or counter. Admiral Yang Hyun-woo coordinated space-based support for the ground battle. His remaining ships would emerge from hiding to attack alien supply lines and reinforcement flights. The aliens could not maintain their ground offensive without constant support from space, and Yang made sure that support came at a heavy price. The battle for Earth had become exactly what Dr. Kim Hye-jin had predicted. Instead of one decisive conflict, it was hundreds of small battles fought simultaneously across the planet. The aliens found themselves trying to hold territory against an enemy that could strike anywhere at any time, then disappear back into the general population. After 2 weeks of ground combat, the Vorthak invasion force was exhausted and demoralized. They controlled some territory during daylight but lost it again each night. Their casualties were mounting while human resistance seemed to grow stronger every day. The easy conquest they had expected was turning into a prolonged war of attrition that they were not prepared to fight. War Prime Gextar realized that his invasion of Earth was failing. The humans had proven to be far more dangerous than any species the Vorthak had. PR Supreme War Commander Vexthul arrived at Earth with the largest Vorthak fleet ever assembled. His armada contained over 400 warships, including the Empire's most advanced dreadnoughts. The fleet represented nearly half of the entire Vorthak military. This time there would be no mistakes and no mercy for the troublesome humans. Vexthul had studied the reports from Gextar's failed invasion with growing anger. A primitive species had somehow defeated the Empire's finest warriors using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. The humans fought like savage animals with no honor or respect for military tradition. This insult to Vorthak superiority would not be tolerated. The Supreme War Commander's plan was simple and brutal. His massive fleet would destroy every human ship in the solar system, then reduce Earth to a burning wasteland. Any humans who survived would serve as examples to other species that might consider resisting the Empire. The cost of defying the Vorthak would be total extinction. Dr. Lee Chan-woo watched the alien armada approach from his hidden laboratory on Mars. For months, his team had worked frantically to understand captured Vorthak technology. They had built weapons that combined human creativity with alien engineering. The results were devastating devices that no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. The new human weapons included railguns that fired projectiles at nearly the speed of light. fusion bombs disguised as communication satellites that could destroy entire ship formations. Most importantly, they had developed stealth technology based on captured alien systems that made human ships almost impossible to detect. Commander Park. Yujin stood on the bridge of the rebuilt flagship New Seoul and prepared for the battle that would decide humanity's fate. Her ship had been constructed in secret, using salvaged alien materials and powered by engines that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Around her waited the largest human fleet ever assembled. The human navy had grown dramatically during the months of occupation. Civilian ships had been converted to warships. Industrial facilities throughout the solar system had produced weapons and equipment. Most importantly, the humans had learned to use captured Vorthak technology better than the aliens themselves. Captain Kim Do-hyun commanded the heavy cruiser Incheon Rising, which was packed with every explosive device Earth could manufacture. His ship was essentially a flying bomb designed for one final mission. Do-hyun and his crew of volunteers knew they would not survive the battle, but their sacrifice would save millions of human lives. The final battle began when Vex Thul's fleet reached the outer edge of the solar system. The Supreme War Commander expected to find scattered human resistance that could be easily overwhelmed. Instead, his sensors detected nothing but empty space and floating debris. The humans appeared to have fled or given up completely. This was exactly what the humans wanted the aliens to believe. Admiral Yang Hyun-woo had positioned his entire fleet using advanced stealth systems that made them invisible to Vorthak sensors. 400 human ships waited in perfect ambush formation, while the alien fleet moved deeper into the trap. The attack began at Neptune's orbit, where Lieutenant Kwon So-young led a squadron of fighter craft in the opening assault. Her pilots had trained for months using captured alien simulators and knew exactly how to exploit weaknesses in Vorthak ship designs. They struck fast and hard at critical systems before vanishing back into the void. But this was only a distraction for the main attack. As alien ships turned to pursue the fighters, they ran directly into the largest minefield in galactic history. Engineer Oh Jin-woo had spent months seeding space around Neptune with millions of explosive devices. The alien fleet sailed into a wall of nuclear fire that destroyed dozens of ships instantly. Supreme War Commander Vex Thul realized he had walked into a trap, but it was already too late. Human ships appeared from all directions using stealth technology to achieve complete surprise. The railguns Dr. Lee had developed fired solid projectiles that punched through alien shields like they were made of paper. Commander Park led the main human battle line in a coordinated assault that targeted alien command ships. The new human vessels were faster and more maneuverable than anything the Vorthak had faced before. They used hit-and-run tactics that prevented the aliens from bringing their superior firepower to bear effectively. The battle raged across the outer solar system as both fleets fought with desperate intensity. Human ships would appear suddenly, unleash devastating attacks, then disappear before the aliens could respond. The Vorthak tried to form defensive formations but found themselves constantly under attack from unexpected directions. Sergeant Shin Min-ji commanded a boarding party that captured a Vorthak supply ship during the height of battle. Her team used the alien vessel's own weapons to attack nearby enemy ships from within their formation. This kind of infiltration tactic had proven highly effective during the ground war on Earth. The turning point came when Captain Kim Do-hyun made his final run at the alien flagship. The Incheon Rising accelerated to maximum speed while under fire from dozens of enemy ships. Kim's vessel was hit repeatedly but continued toward its target, even as hull plates were torn away by alien weapons. The captain spoke calmly to his crew as they approached the massive alien dreadnought. Every person aboard knew this was a suicide mission, but they also knew it would save humanity from extinction. When the Incheon Rising reached the heart of the alien formation, Kim triggered every explosive device on his ship. The explosion was visible from Earth as a new star that burned for several minutes. Supreme War Commander Vex Thul and his entire command staff died instantly, along with the crews of 6 nearby ships. The blast was so powerful that it damaged dozens of other alien vessels and completely disrupted their battle formation. With their supreme commander dead and their flagship destroyed, the Vorthak fleet began to fall apart. Individual ship captains gave contradictory orders while some units tried to retreat and others continued fighting. The coordination that made alien fleets effective completely broke down under the pressure of continuous human attacks. Admiral Yang seized the moment and ordered a general assault by all human forces. Ships emerged from hiding throughout the solar system to join the final battle. The aliens found themselves surrounded and outnumbered by enemies they could barely detect until it was too late to respond effectively. Colonel Nam Ji-hoon led ground-based missile attacks from Earth that targeted alien ships trying to escape the battle. His forces had prepared for months to support the space fleet, and now their hidden weapons reached across millions of kilometers to strike fleeing enemies. No alien ship was safe anywhere in the solar system. The battle continued for 18 hours as human forces systematically destroyed what remained of the Vorthak Armada. Some alien ships tried to surrender, but were told that humans did not accept surrender from species that had threatened genocide. The message was clear. The Vorthak would leave human space or be completely destroyed. Dr. Kim Hyejin watched the battle from the command center on Mars and felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Her strategy had worked perfectly, but the cost in human lives had been enormous. Thousands of brave people had died to prove that humanity could not be conquered by anyone. Their sacrifice had saved the species, but the price was almost too high to bear. As the last alien ships fled into hyperspace, President Lee Dae-ho broadcast a message to the surviving human colonies. The war was over and humanity had achieved complete victory. Earth was free, and the Vorthak Empire had learned that some species could not be conquered no matter how advanced their technology. The aftermath of the battle saw fundamental changes throughout the galaxy. News of humanity's victory spread quickly to other species that had been conquered by the Vorthak. Several worlds declared independence and began their own resistance movements. The empire that had seemed invincible was suddenly fighting wars on dozens of fronts. Commander Park Yu-jin received a message from the Vorthak High Command requesting peace negotiations. The aliens offered to recognize human independence and withdraw from all human space. They also promised massive compensation for the damage caused during their failed invasion attempts. But the humans had learned important lessons about dealing with aggressive alien species. They demanded not just peace, but guarantees that the Vorthak would never threaten Earth again. Human observers would be stationed at alien military bases. Vorthak fleets would be reduced to defensive levels only. Most importantly, the Empire would help rebuild the worlds they had previously conquered. Engineer Oh Jin-woo led the effort to reverse engineer captured alien technology for peaceful purposes. The faster-than-light drives and energy systems would help humanity explore the galaxy and establish colonies on distant worlds. The weapons technology would ensure that Earth could defend itself against future threats. The war had transformed humanity from a peaceful exploring species into master strategists and warriors. But the humans had no interest in becoming conquerors themselves. They used their new military capabilities to protect smaller species and prevent other empires from repeating Vorthak mistakes. Dr. Lee Chan-woo established research stations throughout human space to continue studying alien technology. His D.